Well, this is a bit of an odd timing to release a new character build, but I have read over the patch notes for tomorrow's 0.4 at least, right? And this is technically the strongest 0.3 character I built, but I just didn't get around making a guide for it between fighting against the game's optimization issues and some hardware issues. So I just kind of lost interest for PoE 2 for a bit. But yeah, I've seen through the 0.4 patch notes, and thankfully it seems like everything in this character is still going to be intact. If anything, it might even be slightly buffed for single target, which is a bit wild, honestly. But yeah, I might be a little bit late to the party. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody else has already made a video or build guides or whatever regarding this archetype. But it's basically an Avatar of Fire staff-wielding Titan trying to use hulking form so that you can get massive AoE clears as well as scaling your ignites. There we go. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm recording this after the Abyss League has finished, which means we're not going to be able to see the massive density that you would get of monsters and just having Shattering Palm pop all of them. But I'm guessing between breaches and just the general clear for maps, we'll kind of get a decent idea of what's going on. And by that I mean the screen vomit of explosions that happen. Rare mob. And yeah, I mean, I originally intended this character to be played with Wind Blast. I kind of wanted to test the Fiery Death and Ignite Proliferation, since those both had gotten buffed. But it turns out Shattering Palm is just way too good comparatively. So I ended up defaulting to this, right? And that kind of leads me on to the next point, which is I know there's going to be a big change in the whole monster density department for this game. I forget the exact number, but they said something about like 40% less monsters and then monsters being 40% stronger, something along the lines of that. And for what it's worth, I think it's probably the right call. Like, I don't know about other players, but I, for one, do not enjoy this. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at the screen half of the time. It's just like pretty fireworks all over the place. And I'm not an ARPG veteran, right? So take this with a grain of salt. PoE 1 was my first ARPG, but I played that one extensively. And I feel like whenever you get this amount of monsters on your screen, it kind of defaults you into having to build your characters in a very specific way, where you have either corpse explosions or some method by which you're causing the monsters to hit each other. And with that I mean like generating your attacks on each of the targets, so that they overlap and just nuke themselves out immediately. This is partly one of the reasons why I enjoy leveling characters more than playing the endgame nowadays. The endgame ends up feeling a little bit repetitive, and there's this whole case where like when you start a new character from level 1 all the way to like level 24-ish, you're very limited into your options, so you're kind of forced to play the character as the developers want you to play the character. And then past level 24-ish and all the way to like level 60, you have a lot of problem solving, and you can get creative with what your character does. But once you hit the end game, then you once again either have solved the character, or, or you've defaulted to the whole meta where you have to just wipe screens and have monsters explode each other, right? So yeah, they've done this a lot in PoE 1 in the past, where they make a very large change that a lot of people are initially against, just because they've been used to the whole dopamine that you get from blasting wide swaths of monsters and feeling powerful. But I think it's better overall for the health of the game, or at least I'd like to hope it is, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. So that's how the clear works on this character, and then for the bossing, it's way, way easier. All you have to do really is throw in an Infernal Cry and then a Gathering Storms, and then the boss is usually dead. So we'll do just that right now. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, this operates very, very similar to Plasma Blast on the Ignite builds that I've featured previously. It's arguably better because you get the shocked ground guaranteed, so you don't have to roll for a shock chance. And since you're generating shocked ground, then Avatar of Fire is making it where you're still able to apply a shock. You're also not struggling with the whole inconsistency of crossbows having a wide damage range, since saves are considerably more consistent. And on top of that, you get to scale critical, so yeah, it's just really nutty. But yeah, let's see. Start with the gear, I guess, as usual. There's nothing too out of the ordinary. The staff is insane. Like, it's got +4 melee levels. It's got very good percentage fizz, flat fizz, hybrid fizz from the Abyss mods. The helm has increased armor, life, resistances. Body armor has the same. Your belt has life, armor, resist, movement speed, armor, resistances. Strength is also good since it also provides you with more life. And then for your gloves and rings, you have to get either and or fire damage and physical damage flat, since those go really well with Avatar Fire. Flat lightning, flat cold is okay, but you're gonna lose out a good chunk of damage there. I mean, I guess it's the same as physical since it's getting converted too. But yeah, just gotta get flat damage. The amulet has plus melee, and it's got plus 46 spirit, which has come in handy since I'm just barely using almost all of it up. As far as the skills go, as I mentioned, I tried going Wind Blast. I'm still using it mostly because you can occasionally tag a whole group of monsters with Shattering Palm, but then you need to pop the ice shards on them, so you can always just do it from afar with the Wind Blast. And it's also really worth noting that you can level up this character with Wind Blast for clear, and then using Vaulting Impact for bosses, because you won't have access to Shattering Palm until further down the line. I forget the exact level, I think it's somewhere around the 40s maybe, and then Gathering Storm is a very late game kind of skill, so do keep that in mind. But yeah, Shattering Palm for clear, so you go increased AoE, gain extra as fire, increased elemental damage. Wind Blast has extra fire, increased elemental damage, and then faster ignites. Gathering Storm has gain as extra, elemental damage, and then more magnitude of ignites. You've got your Warcry. You mostly just want it to buff up your Gathering Storm, so getting a little bit of Rage is good. Extra levels are going to give you more effectiveness, probably, and then some cooldown reduction. Herald of Ash is actually fantastic in this build. I'll go over it in a little bit. But yeah, you're scaling the AoE and the damage of the Overkill Ignites. It's one thing that we're building an Ignite character, right? So the Herald of Ash is inherently going to be strong, but there's a mechanical side to it. We're using Wind Dancer, which is taking a nerf on 0.4, but it doesn't hurt us as much because this build isn't centered around Wind Dancer. We are using elemental damage, gain as extra, more AoE, and more Ignite damage. But yeah, the reason this is good is because you can just right-click your way with Shattering Palm and tag all of the monsters with the icicles, and then whenever you receive a hit, the Wind Dancer can pop, and then it can detonate all of the shards, so you kind of use this as a trigger mechanism. And then since we got the spirit from the amulet, we're able to also use Blasphemy. so that we can go for elemental weakness, then just keep everything debuffed. I tried playing around with Ancestral Cry. You can gather the glory well enough, but I don't know, it's inconsistent and it doesn't have a lot of an uptime. It doesn't feel like it adds much to the build, so I wouldn't really advise for it, but if you want to do it for flavor reasons, then go ahead. One thing I'd like to mention is charged staff. I don't think there's an easy way to generate power charges, but there might be one, and if there is, then it's just like free damage, so if you figure that one out, you've got the sockets to spare. So as far as the ascendancy and the passive tree, it's just the usual. You play Titan, you get hulking form, and then you get like large AoE and more damage, which is fantastic. The increased strength is also a little bit of extra life, so that's good. Passive tree is pretty straightforward. You're playing a melee build, so you just take all the melee nodes. Then you get fire damage because you're going Avatar Fire. This path, you get some more fire damage here. You get blood magic, which is fantastic because staff skills are usually very expensive in terms of mana cost. So just managing that with your life pool is just, it immediately solves the issue for you. Then you just head down and you take Avatar Fire. This is kind of like the crux of the build, I guess. And yeah, you can take area damage, pave down here, so you save up at this point. Then you can pave down this way, get some more attack damage, which is generic, and then magnitude of ailments to increase your ignites. You don't really care about your attack speed since this is the usual one-tap kind of build that I go for. This cluster is valuable because you're playing Dex and Int in order to solve for your attribute requirements, which thankfully isn't as hard as it used to be before. But you're also going pure strength so that you can go armor because you're going through all of these armor nodes down this way. Surprisingly, armor is in a really good spot, so scaling a little bit of that is also a good idea. We've taken some here and here. And there's a few other armor nodes in the vicinity that I would be inclined to take down the line as well. Another big point to mention is jewels. Rage on melee hit is really good. That way you don't have to spend one passive point, which you would otherwise have to take... Where is it? I think it's... there. Yeah. If you don't have Rage on melee on a jewel, then you can just get one right here. And the other jewel... Oh, that's interesting. I thought I had a gain percentage of life on kill, but I might just be getting that as... yeah, it's just a flat life on enemy killed. Since you're killing monsters so quickly, that's how you're keeping your life topped up. And in terms of weapon swap, we've locked the staff on both ends, and you can see this swapping around, right? So for your clear setup, which is what you have tagged to your Shattering palm, you just take AoE, you take as much AoE as you can get, and then these nodes that have increased damage with hits against ignited enemies. This is good on your clear setup, because for bosses you're kind of just banking on getting a one-shot off of your Infernal Cry plus Gathering Storm, which means the monster will not be pre-ignited. So yeah, you just take those on the clear setup instead. Some more AoE there. This is another one of those against ignited. And then when you go... this is also AoE. Then when you swap to your single target set, you lose the AoE nodes, and then you just take Ignite Duration over here. But you also get as much crit as you can, because the critical strikes are really going to come through and be what you want to see when you're trying to one-shot a boss, right? So it's pretty straightforward, right? And this is only level 76. I barely leveled up. It's been a while since I played, so I don't know where exactly I would dump that point. But there's a lot of options. As I said, you've got like defenses, there's some armor over here, there's some more armor over there, which I was getting previously. There's some Warcry related nodes as well. I think it's this one. Yeah, empowered attacks, so you could have that for your single target. And then there's always just like the few random attack nodes that are littered about that you can take. But yeah, pretty straightforward character. Just figured I should share. Now, a big detail I want to mention is that you can play something very similar as a Infernalist, because you take the node where you can apply ignites with any type of damage. That means you don't need Avatar of Fire, so you won't be receiving this damage hampering nerf, where it's converting 75% into fire, and then you're dealing non-fire, so you're losing out 25% of your damage, right? If you go Infernalist, you would be dealing the full 100%. I just don't know what the passive tree would look like, because you'd have to start up this area, which is a bit inefficient. And you'd also lose out on hulking form, which means your AoE would be much smaller. Not only due to the ascendancy, but also because the passive points for increased AoE are all kind of cluttered over there, so... But yeah, I thought I should mention. It's a bit hard to express this verbally, so... maybe I can try explaining it on paint, right? But I did mention Avatar of Fire being really good in this build. And it's kind of like... if we assume that there's a whole bunch of monsters scattered about, and as you're clearing the map, you're kind of moving through it, right? So let's assume you warp with your Shattering Palm here, and then you tag all of these monsters with the Shattering Palm thing. And then when you detonate one of them, since they kind of cascade and they blow up sequentially down this way, and because you're not playing an instant damage build, it means that you're not going to be like immediately one-shotting these monsters. They'll take a large hit, and then they'll trickle down a damage over time with the ignite. As that's happening, you get enough time to bounce into another target. So then you can hit this monster, for instance, and then you'll tag all of these. And then the cascading damage over time explosions from here are going to trigger these ones, right? Because like this one's going to happen first, then this one, and then this one. By the time this one blows up, you'll hopefully have tagged all of these ones, and then this explosion will immediately trigger the Shattering Palm on this other cluster. And then again, it's like a sequential cascade of explosions, which gives you time to just spam another Shattering Palm here, and then tag all of this group, so that you carry over the explosions all the way from here to the other screen on the other end. That's kind of why the Herald of Ash works really well, or just Ignite in general, with a Shattering Palm. Yeah, I think that's mostly everything I have to say about this character. I'm gonna cut into a couple clips of the other characters that I've played in this channel, and make a few brief notes on the outliers that I've picked from the patch notes and their significance to those characters. Armor Explosion is now supportable by cooldown supports. I'm guessing this means that Armor Explosion is now getting a cooldown, which it didn't have previously. This means you won't be able to proliferate it with Herald of Plague across every single monster. Similarly, Plague Burst from Bursting Plague is now supportable by cooldown supports, so I'm guessing the Plague Burst explosions are also going to be getting a cooldown, which means you won't be able to spam them across packs. Not only that, but Pathfinder Contagious Contamination has been removed. That was the passive point that allowed your poison to spread, which you could use with spells. That means you can only get poison proliferation through Herald of Plague, which means you need a martial weapon once again. Iron Ward Nova radius is now 6 meters. This is about 3 times larger, and it stores 160 to 480, so that's about 3 times faster than it currently is. This one isn't so much about a character I've built previously, but something to try in 0.4. The Ceremonial Ablution now grants Sorcery Ward, also protects against physical and chaos damage. Normally you get Sorcery Ward here, which gives you kind of an effective life pool based on how much armor and evasion you have. And then that life pool would only protect you from elemental damage. So now with this change, you'll be able to have that life pool apply to physical and chaos damage. There's been a video before, I'll try to link it if I can find it, of some other exile which made a very interesting build, scaling armor and evasion as much as possible and then going chaos inoculation. And they were running with like a very tiny amount of energy shield, but they had an effective life pool of about like 24,000 or something based off of the sorcery ward alone. So Witchhunter is looking really strong. Not only that, but because Plague Burst is getting the cooldown nerf, if you go with a martial weapon and you scale your poison so that you have access to Herald of Plague, you can bounce around your poison, and then your poison will be able to detonate on 10 to 20% chance of the time, dealing 100% of max monster life as physical. That physical damage can then apply poison, which will then further on be proliferated by the Herald of Plague and then cause subsequent explosions as long as the density is strong enough. So some sort of poison-based evasion armor Witchhunter is looking like a very solid archetype to try out. But yeah, I think that's going to be everything for this video. In case I don't catch you later down this month, then I hope you have a very nice Christmas, and yeah, enjoy the holidays with your family and loved ones. Take care.